So I'm here today with Gracie Page from VMware Y&R. She is Director of Emerging Tech. So we're here to talk about the recent Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, and you were quite excited by these things, app clips. Explain what app clips are and why you're interested.
Absolutely. So app clips are, as you've just mentioned, this new piece of technology from Apple, which will be rolling out as part of iOS 14, which is their latest update to the iPhone's operating system, which will hit our phones in September time. And they're effectively a small piece of an app that allow users to accomplish a very specific and very narrow task without the need to download a full app. And if anyone watching today has worked on developing and launching an app and bringing that to market and then getting audiences to actually get to the App Store and download an app, they will instantly be thinking, oh my goodness, this could be of massive value, right? Because app clips basically solve for those moments when brands want to enable their customers to complete a task without actually having to have them go ahead and download a full app. So the scenario that I'm particularly personally very much looking forward to is paying for parking. I don't know if you have been in this situation, when you park up, you don't have change, there's either a number to call for an automated service or you've got to download the app, right? And guess what? I have bad connectivity. I don't want to download an app, sign up, sign in just to put an hour on the meter. It's like absolute faff. So app clip could completely solve for that scenario.
Interesting. So that's kind of a very particular example. So if you're a big brand marketer, why should I be getting excited about this?
Well, because they offer you a new way to deliver value to customers at a transactional moment in time without putting that onus on them to figure out where your app is, to download it. So they really take all of the onus off the user to jump through those hoops. And that ultimately means that we're lowering barriers to engagement, which is very exciting for brands. So, as lockdown starts to ease as well, and we actually start visiting pubs and shops again, and hairdressers and barbershops again, there's going to obviously be a big question around queuing, and specifically one of the major pain points in retail at the moment is queuing to pay, right? So by embedding an app clip in your app, you basically would be able to completely dispense of the need to go and queue at the bar and get face to face with the barman or the barwoman. So these are just some examples of the ways that app clips could be incredibly helpful to businesses as they start getting back on their feet post coronavirus.
And in terms of creating these things, do you see it as a role like your agency? Do you see it as your colleagues in your agency would start to develop things for app clips? Or is it going to be something more specialist, or even brands themselves will be expected to do?
Well, I think the answer to that question is going to depend entirely on who currently owns your app development, if you have one. So having an app is a prerequisite at the moment, at least, for having an app clip offering to give to your consumers. So if that's something that's handled in-house, there's no reason why your development team who currently look after your app shouldn't be looking at what an app clip experience would look like. But equally, it can absolutely be done on the agency side, and it's definitely something I'll be talking to my clients too.
It was a very interesting Worldwide Development Conference this year, and as you say, it's ahead of the new devices launching probably October, November this year for Apple, where we're going to have the iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro, possibly new iPads as well. They announced a lot. What was your overall impression about where Apple is going? Is it, I suppose, we're used to quite incremental changes, about tweaks here and there, better battery life, etc. But do you see any game changers this year?
In terms of what was announced at WWDC, I think it was really more about a tightening of the ecosystem and a bolstering of some of the big sort of stakes in the ground that they'd already planted last year. So not specifically called out at WWDC, but something we're seeing a lot of in the reports and leaks ahead of their September event, which is obviously the big hardware event of the year for Apple, is the idea of the LiDAR scanner, which was put into the iPad Pro last year, coming to the iPhone 12, if that's what it's going to be called, the newest generation of iPhone. And that's really going to sort of catalyze a next leveling of what augmented reality could look like on the phone. But the other thing that we saw a lot of at WWDC was Apple really just driving home how intentful they are on the topic of data privacy. They dedicated a whole portion of the keynote to it, and they crucially announced that they're going to be requiring from iOS 14 onwards that all developers who have have an app going onto the App Store will now have to self-report on all their data practices. Apps also that are going to be using the camera or the microphone on the iPhone will show a little orange dot in the top bar of the phone, just to let that user know that the app is using those functionalities on the phone. So we saw a lot around how they are just sort of designing for a more inclusive and a more conscious data privacy conversation.
Interesting. Very cool. We shall wait and see. Gracie Page, thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar.